The single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete. They make one story become the only story. Chimamanda Adichie. I recently was watching Meredith at Meredith Phillips Wright's channel. I will link her channel down below. She has an amazing AuthorTube channel. And she did the writer's stereotype tag. I basically never do tag videos. I don't think I have ever done an AuthorTube tag video. I used to do BookTube ones all the time, and I kind of moved away from that to do other content as I have had to kind of reevaluate my channel and put more time towards other things. But this one looked so fun, and I really love introspective questions like this, so I decided to just do it. Of course, the original channel and Meredith's video and all of the questions will be in the description box below. And if you haven't done this tag video and it seems interesting to you, then consider yourself tagged and go to the video. The first question is, what are 3 to 5 stereotypes that do not apply to you? The first one is that writers are caffeine addicts and that they just chug coffee all the time. And I actually don't drink coffee or basically anything with caffeine in it. I am not a huge drink person, although I do like hot chocolate sometimes. But I mostly just drink water, so that's pretty boring. Another stereotype about writers is that they prefer cats to people. And this is not me. I am not an animal person. I did have a lizard when I was growing up and liked my lizard, but he was way low maintenance. And I did really want a cat when I was a child. In fact, if I had to pick a favorite animal, I would probably pick a cat. But I just am not an animal person. I don't snuggle animals or like love on them the way some people do. I think I prefer people to animals. Another stereotype is how messy or disorganized writers are, especially with like their writing area. And this is the complete opposite of me. I am probably as orderly of a person as you can get. When I take personality tests, I am always really up there on how just orderly and organized I like to be, and just how much I like to organize in general. That's just like a personality thing. A fourth stereotype is that writers are always going to places like coffee shops to write. And this is not me either. I pretty much always write in my house. The one exception is sometimes if I take my 6-year-old to her piano lesson at my in-laws' house. So still kind of a private place where it's just like my mother-in-law and my daughter at the piano and I'm on the couch waiting for them to be done. If I haven't gotten my writing in yet, then I will often write then, but that's the only place besides my house that I pretty much ever write. Even when we're traveling, I hardly ever write then. And the fifth and final one that I'm going to mention is that writers are night owls and that they'll stay up all night writing. And again, this is the complete opposite of me. I am definitely a morning person. I always have been, and I probably always will be. I have a really hard time even making it to midnight on New Year's Eve. I do better if I am like doing something like when I was a teenager and I would go to dances. I didn't have a hard time staying up, but if we're watching a movie or something, then I will fall asleep. And it has been that way since I was very young. Even as a teenager, if we were watching a movie and it was 10 o'clock, I would fall asleep. And I can fall asleep anywhere, doing pretty much anything. And I will wake up early even if I stay up often, and I would much rather get things done in the morning than at night. And so I usually write in the morning, and if I wait to write until it's nighttime, then I will write 3 sentences and be done, because I am usually really, really exhausted. This isn't part of the tag, but I thought, why is this a question? So I just thought I would mention a couple that do apply to me. One is that writers are grammar police, and I have to plead guilty here. I love grammar. I have loved it since the 5th grade when I had a teacher who really pounded it in, and I do correct people's grammar, especially my family's, and it can drive them a little bit crazy sometimes, or they'll tease me about it. Another one is that writers are procrastinators, and I am a huge procrastinator despite my orderliness. Especially in school, I was a big procrastinator, and especially when it came to papers and writing papers, I would almost always write them the night before and turn them in and turn in the first draft, and it almost always turned out okay because I'm a pretty good writer. But it's definitely something that I've been trying to work on, not procrastinating. And then the final one that I just wanted to mention that applies to me is writers writing people they know into their books. And I am definitely guilty of this. Maybe it will get to be less this way as I become a more experienced writer. But definitely with my first book, there were 100% characters or things that characters did that were straight up copies of things that other people had done that I knew, or things like that. Question 2 is, what part of the writing process is hardest for you? For me, drafting is the hardest part. It probably goes in order, like my favorite things are, my favorite is to outline, and then my second favorite is to edit, and then my third favorite is to brainstorm, and then my fourth favorite is to draft. And I know that some people will really relate to that, and then other people, they love to draft and they hate to edit or things like that. But for me, I love the outlining and the editing phases. Question 3 is, do you ever feel imposter syndrome as a writer? Or what about with YouTube? And can I just say yes and yes? I mean, does anyone not feel imposter syndrome ever with it? I think that especially with writing, YouTube can be kind of go in ups and downs for me, but especially with writing, I feel like writing is such a hard thing that it's hard. And especially as I'm drafting, it's really hard to sit down and write because I know what I'm writing isn't very good, because first drafts just don't tend to be very good. And that can be a really hard thing to get through. Question 4 is, do you generally receive skepticism or support for your writing? And I just have to say, I get so much support. My husband is so supportive. My mom and my mother-in-law, they're really supportive. I have my writing group that are way supportive. And of course, AuthorTube here is like one of the most supportive communities on YouTube, which I just think is so awesome. And same with Instagram. I just feel like the author sphere of Instagram is also so supportive, and I just think it's so awesome the way that the community love there. And number 5 is, what is one piece of writing advice that you would give to a beginner writer? I think, just coming from my own experience, the thing that I would tell them is that writing is hard. But that doesn't mean that you are not meant to be a writer. If you aren't enjoying a certain part of the process, that doesn't mean you're not meant to be a writer. If you don't hear characters in your head talking to each other or stay up super late with ideas, that doesn't mean you're not meant to be a writer. Just because you are different from other writers. And I just realized this advice kind of goes along with the theme of this tag, because, you know, people have certain ideas about writers. There are stereotypes, and those are stereotypes for a reason, because there are a lot of people out there like that. But if you don't fit in with that, that doesn't mean that you aren't meant to be a writer. And if your process or your feelings or whatever are slightly different, that's okay. Just keep going and figure out a way that works for you if this is what you really want to do. If you have done this tag or are going to do this tag, don't forget to link it in the comments below so I can go watch it. And if you haven't done it, then I would love to hear, what is one piece of writing advice that you would give to new writers? Leave it in the comments below and we can chat more about reading and writing. If you want to follow my reading journey, I do leave a review for every book that I read on Goodreads. And I also share my favorite books on Instagram, as well as more about my writing journey. Both of those will be linked in the description box below. And thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in the next one.